Hello, welcome to my humble abode. You've had a look behind the scenes at Paddy's. I thought it was about time I got in on the act. Not supposed to be working this morning, but we have got a rather big Norwich City story on our hands. You may have seen by this point that Todd Cantwell, Max Aarons, and Ben Godfrey, all three of them named in the England under-21 squad, which is a big deal, of course, for a club like Norwich City. We're used to seeing the big clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool. They quite regularly have three plus players in these sort of youth international squads, but for Norwich to have three in a squad we don't think has happened before. Maybe it has quite a way back in history, but certainly nothing recent. James Maddison, Angus Gunn were both in 21 squads in recent years. Darren Eadie, Andy Marshall in the 90s were both in together, so there's certainly been incidents where there's been two Norwich players, but we think this is the first time that three are in, and it's even more of a big deal at the moment because it's the first under-21 call-up for all three of them. All got caps at younger levels. Max Aarons and Ben Godfrey, both the under-19s and 20s respectively last season, as they of course played a huge part in last season's championship title success. And Todd actually did get four caps for the England under-17s when he was a young lad. You'll probably remember he was talked about a lot as he came through the age groups at Norwich. He has been with the club since he was 10, from Dereham. I'm sure you're well aware. We've certainly written about that enough. Proper local lad making it big, really, scoring his first Premier League goal on Saturday, and now he's in the England under-21s setup. So a real feather in the cap for the academy setup, I guess. Some people will point to the fact that maybe Aarons and Godfrey aren't sort of genuine academy, put it in air quotes, because Godfrey was signed from York as an 18-year-old. They paid, it was a deal worth up to £1 million, but I watched Ben come through that system, saw him in plenty of 23s games, and he was very raw. So I think the coaches can take a great deal of credit for how he was developed. That loan season with Shrewsbury, of course, was very influential in bringing him to the point that he's at now. And Daniel Farker then took him on to that next stage. And we all know that infamous quote from Daniel when he said that he had the potential to be a world-class centre-back, which some of us were, including myself, were surprised by at the time, given how well he was doing at defensive midfield. But I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say he's pretty much first choice centre back at Norwich at the moment. So that's great. Max Aarons under 16. He was 16 when he came in. He had been on the books at Luton Town previously, like Jamal Lewis. Of course, there's a limited amount of credit the coaches can take because it's the players that have done all the hard work, and they're the ones who've taken themselves to this point. But of course the coaches have played a big part in them reaching this point. So an exciting day, I'm sure, for academy staff. The games are in Turkey on next Friday. That's in Istanbul. And then the other game is against Kosovo at Hull City's ground, which is called the KCOM Stadium these days. That's the following Monday evening. So they are both qualifiers. The Euros are in 2021. They're being hosted by Slovenia and Hungary. Cantwell and Godfrey only just make the cut in terms of age group. You have to be born on or before the 1st of January 1998. Godfrey was born on January the 15th, so he literally just makes it under the wire, and Todd in February. Max is only 19, so this is sort of perfect timing for him, really. He is probably well in line to be the first choice right back with Trent Alexander-Arnold, of course, a Champions League winner, a big player for Liverpool. He's got to be in senior squads from now on, as he is. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who has gone from Palace to Manchester United, he's now in the senior squad as well. So although there's a lot of right back competition, some of the path has been cleared to an extent for Max Aarons, so there's a genuine opportunity for him to lay down a marker and get himself and make himself a permanent part of Aidy Boothroyd's team. Aidy Boothroyd, of course, a former City coach. He was at Colney between 2001 and 2003. I think he was Keith Webb's successor to go back to those days. Then went and took over at West Brom's academy and, of course, managed Watford in the Premier League eventually. He signed a new 2-year contract with the under-21s before this summer's Euros, which went rather badly, a group stage exit. Despite the amount of talent that Boothroyd had at his disposal, they went out in the group stages, lost 4-2 to Romania as well. So there's a bit of pressure on Boothroyd to improve things. He took over from Gareth Southgate back in 2017 and initially took that group, which included Nathan Redmond, to the semi-finals of the Euros in 2017. You may remember Redmond missed the crucial penalty in the semi-finals against Germany in a shootout defeat. They then also won the Toulon tournament under Boothroyd, so that was a big setback for them this summer. He's really going to be looking to pull together a group which is capable of performing well when they get to the Euros in 2021, because that's when his contract expires. Of course, the element of international call-ups with Norwich is always that you're going to be concerned about injuries. That's 3 players who've all started all 3 Premier League games so far, recording before the West Ham game on Saturday. So there is always that side of it. But with England call-ups, most Norwich fans, of course, are England fans. So there's a degree of pride in seeing the club's players called up to the England setup. So it's a balance. There'll be some people who don't care about international football at all and will just be worried about the injury side of things. So you just have to sort of keep your fingers crossed on that front, I guess, and hope that they can all further their reputations without doing any damage to their Norwich careers. Of course, they're not the only ones. Though Grant Hanley, Kenny McLean are in the Scotland squad. Timu Pukki, no surprises, in the Finland squad. Who else? We've got Jamal Lewis, Michael McGovern are in the Northern Ireland squad. Mario Vrancic isn't in the Bosnia squad. He looks like he's lost his place there. So there could be a few more international calls here and there, but that looks like the majority of what we're expecting so far. Tim Closer, of course, won't be joining up with Switzerland. The other teams in England's the England under-21s groups are Austria, Albania and Andorra. So just to add to what I was saying about Boothroyd, they really should be qualifying from that group and should be going to the Euros in 2021. And as I say, yeah, they're in Slovenia and Hungary. So this is 3 Norwich players in the thick of it. They've got opportunities to really lay down a marker at the start of the qualification campaign. And I'm sure all Norwich fans will be really eager to see them get game time and continue to flourish. If you want to be cynical about it, then you've got the transfer value side of things as well. Aarons and Godfrey have already had a lot of transfer speculation surrounding them. All 3 signed new contracts, like most of the Norwich players this summer, so they're all secured for the long term. But if they can continue to do well at that level, then that will put more value on their heads. And of course, if Norwich can establish themselves in the Premier League and all 3 continue to play regular roles, then they may even get a sniff of senior England squads at some point in the next couple of years. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's just the start, particularly for Todd Cantwell. It's a real big day to be back involved in the England setup, and I'm sure you guys are all really pleased for all 3 of them. So head over to Pinkerton.com for the full details. I'll hand you over to Paddy for the press conference at lunchtime, and we will both catch up with you at West Ham.